Welcome to the Authenticos podcast, the show that covers everything related to delivering digital transformation in large organizations. Your hosts, Jacob and Jesper, will share their own stories and unfiltered views as they guide you through delivery of digital transformation.
All right, Jesper, here we sit again.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
The fourth episode.
And the topic for this one we're going to discuss is the challenges within
the current supplier ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly.
We did initially say the partner ecosystem, but I think I think us just calling it calling the topic the supplier ecosystem is much more fitting for at least for what we want to talk about, because obviously we have a little side project of our own, which is this marketplace, which I'm sure we'll talk more about in some upcoming episodes. But me personally, and I think this comes from having my own SI, so System Integrator company, where we focus on mainly creating standardized integration packages to connect various systems. I've just come across a lot of kind of issues and gaps and curiosities, I guess, in the way the software suppliers kind of approach their ecosystem, and I can see it actually hurting the end client in multiple ways.
Can you elaborate?
Of course,
it's a big.
Of course,
it's a big statement. You can say to.
It is.
Yeah.
But so
when you say hurting, what do you mean by?
It is a bit of a bombastic word to use, but the way it essentially works today is if a client, once they pick their software, then at the same time they do that, they're essentially also committing to only being able to access the add-ons to that particular software that the supplier has vetted and approved, in order to kind of fulfill some of the gaps between what the business needs and what that software can do.
Right.
So if we take, before I jump into that, then what the one thing they can do is obviously kind of go onto these various marketplaces that the suppliers they curate and manage.
It could be SAP's marketplace. It could be Microsoft's.
Exactly.
Microsoft's marketplace.
Exactly, and I have personal experience with both, because my SI has published their products on both of those marketplaces, and this is also why I've come across this issue. And for a client, if they can't find anything on these curated marketplaces where the supplier is basically determining what can go on it and what can't go on it, then the only other option is basically go out and contact an SI to develop something custom for their system, or if it's not functionality that's needed, but it's some parameters set up, then again they will have to do these things from scratch. It's very rare you can buy instances where an SI or the client itself, to some degree, have these ready-made packages that can just kind of get you up and running immediately. So that's really to me that's the issue, that the ecosystem is so closely guarded that the client is limited to these very few options. There's obviously good reason for the suppliers to do that, because it from from their perspective, they are essentially in their marketplace. Then they would guarantee that it's kind of a, let's say, an industry standard solution that you can point to. But the downside, as the way I see it, and what we talked about as well, is that it's very, very hard for a client or even a partner as well, because this limitation is really limiting both the delivery part of it and also subsequent operations and everything else. Right. But the limiting part is that you don't really have anything out there across the ecosystems, being Oracle, SAP, Microsoft, JD Edwards, whatever, IBM, that allows the enterprise clients. So when I say enterprise clients, I mean both SIs and client end customers, to tap into the big resource pool of individual technical people or functional people out there. If we take, because a lot of these people, they've done a lot of good work over the course of their career, and they have so much good work in their back pocket. So I'm sure you must have come across the example of getting a good finance consultant in for a local region.
Yes. Yes.
And what do they bring? What do they bring with them?
They bring, besides their knowledge within the application, they bring data packages.
Exactly.
So they bring in, let's say we're implementing in Italy, we're implementing in Spain, we're implementing in Germany. Yeah. They implementing in other countries. They bring the experience of the local legal for that specific country. And they bring data packages.
Exactly.
And that's what we talked about, that why not reuse some of that. Yeah. Some of that.
And that's the core of the issue I see with what I call the supplier ecosystem, is that there's no way, unless you know that individual person, when you're running a program, but there's no way really to connect those people with the projects out there and the end clients, which means that you can't tap into the resources unless you know them personally.
And that's always been the
exactly
been the issue when you're doing for my shoes, ERP implementations, that you had to know, you had to pinpoint these specific functional consultants who had the experience in doing configuration in Italy.
Or it can be as simple as a technical person who always goes into a client and he always does the same report. Why can't we? But because the suppliers on their marketplaces, the barriers of entry are so hard
that's really interesting. What you're saying here, that for them to be able to release both extensions and data packages today is really...
They can't because if I want to go on SAP's marketplace, which I've been through that process, and it's a long process. But number one, and this is the same for most of the curated marketplaces out there, which is where the clients pick their extensions from. You have to be a registered company. So that already leaves out most of your critical mass of resources out there that has all of these good things in the back pocket. B, you have to go through a QA and vetting process, basically to make sure that you have the resources to support and all these kind of things. And C, you have to pay typically quite a big fee just to be allowed to be listed on these marketplaces. So that barrier of entry just excludes 99.9% of resources out there from ever even trying.
Interesting.
And that's the dilemma. Like, how do you tap into those resources? how can you provide the opportunity for people that has good things that can be reused? How do you provide the facility for them to connect with clients and make a little buck, basically, and also how do you make it possible for clients to go out and source pre-created assets,
Yes.
that being data or configuration or actual development to their projects whenever there's a business requirement that can't be met by the software or one of the standard solutions that are available.
Because that was my vision, to have a place where clients basically, instead of today where they go to their system integrator, with a list of requirements.
Yeah.
And the system integrator look at the requirements, get a quotation, follow the normal process. Why not turn it around and say, okay, most of these extensions have already been developed before.
Exactly.
Why not have a place where you can actually...
Of course, if you're a consulting firm, and you have some gaps, I mean, maybe, just maybe, there's a chance that other consultancy firms using the same software, they had the same requirements. So it must have been solved before.
Yeah.
Or if you're a food manufacturer, or if you're a renewable energy company, all with their peculiarities quite often that must have been solved before. You just don't have visibility of it. You just don't have a way to, access those resources.
Yeah.
The only thing that exists today are small grassroots movements. Where individual people might have tried to create a little community where things can be shared, or you can go on GitHub, which is really good. But the issue with all of these things is there's no quality assurance around it, which there has to be some, because then obviously at the end of the day, the SI or whoever is responsible for the software, someone has to, approve the risk and everything else before you put something into something that touches your enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very good, but they're flawed as well. Plus there's not really anything out there that gives traction, and also they don't provide functionality for communication between the two parties or actually selling a product. It's more of a, in the spirit of the community, we just share. So that's the So to me, it's a big issue right now in the supplier ecosystem, that it's so closed off now that you're just missing out on a lot of easy gains, a lot of easy gains, and you end up really just reinventing the wheel, not once, not 3 times, but several hundred times. It's crazy.
And adding additional cost, you can say, and time to the project.
So through this venture of ours, I think the goal is obviously to connect, but also really to turn kind of the approach a little bit upside down. If we could curate, or if a customer, as you said, could come with those gaps, and then source from this pool of talent things that had already been done. Imagine how fast you could basically implement a system.
We're back to the 1 year you talked about. In some of the previous
exactly, and I think you could do it even faster. Mm-hmm. If you could access all of that, it would be to me it's kind of mind-boggling what could be achieved if you could open up that resource pool.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the partners as such. I don't think there's particularly anything wrong with the marketplaces that the suppliers are curating. But it's just that if that's all there's, if that's the only places you can go as a client, then you're locked, and then we end up in these crazy complex and long projects, which really shouldn't be as complex as they are. Because your example, you go into a new country, instead of doing the tax, legal, and statutory setup from scratch every time, or you use a half-baked setup from your supplier, because your supplier has to provide something that fits everyone, and then it never fits anyone. Like if you could,
or even worse, you try to bring in someone who did it 5 years ago, but who's not updated on the latest Italian local legal requirement. I've seen that happen too, and it's just as you say, it's a half-baked cake, and
it is.
It doesn't work.
Exactly. So if you could just access, proven setups as you go into a new market, you're up and running immediately. And a lot of these, like what you call the pre-phase, for at least for the individual countries, a lot of that effort goes away as well, which is, imagine the cost that you're saving on a program.
And the risk, both the risk and the cost.
It's cost, time, risk, resources. It's it's the whole, we call it the project triangle. Everything just becomes so much more manageable.
Yes, especially on these global implementations where you try to implement in, or the goal is to implement in several countries.
Yeah. Well, imagine if you were, let's say, a partner. If you go in and you, I said renewable energy before. So if you had to present the system to a renewable energy company, so they have particular challenges, which is quite often their projects is actually in legal entities of their own. But if you could buy a data set that kind of just shows how that is set up, boom, done. They could demo, in a much more, client
confident way. Yeah, confident way, because I've been on demos where the system integrator really had some difficulty in showing to the client, okay, we understood.
Exactly.
We understood your business rather early, so for them to be able to do this.
And I know we both see the so in Microsoft they have the what's called the composite data set, which is their standard demo data set. But what that meant back in the day is it's better now. It's a lot better now. But back in the day, you must have seen it. You would see SIs that would demonstrate the manufacturing of a bicycle to a manufacturing client that does something completely different.
Yeah, I've seen that, and I also see
it becomes completely unrelatable.
I also worked with system integrator who lost that potential client because they didn't understand,
exactly
what industry this client was operating in.
Let's say they were making engines. If you could just demo that with something where the engine was the output in your data set, you become so much more relatable, and the client understands what you're showing so much more.
Interesting.
So that's the. I think that's a bit of a roundabout way of basically saying or explaining the challenges I see in the current supplier ecosystem, but also some of the benefits that's just lying out there, just ready for us to just dig into.
Yeah.
And it's benefits on all sides, really. Unless you're a system integrator where your business model is just to purposely redo what you've done before. So I'm not gonna, I think there's a few of them out there, but too bad. I think the world is changing.
It is.
Yeah.
Interesting, super interesting discussion.
It is. It's I don't think it's a secret for anyone that we are working on something that will kind of support that transition. But that is not a topic for this particular episode.
There's a later. Let's take that on the later one.
It is.
Yeah. But it's been super. I learned something new.
Yeah.
In this one.
I'm learning.
Thank you for this discussion here in Athens. 37 degrees today in the summer.
It's horrible.
So,
I know. Us having pants on is really just misleading.
And for you who can see it, it's actually real coffee in this one, but we'll change it to something more cold and refreshing. Thank you, Jesper.
Well, thank you.